Welcome back to another episode of this crazy person that just eats meat and can't shut up about it. I'm Tom, and I'm doing this solo today. Justin and Joe were tied up. Emily was tied up, raising a meeting, so didn't have any guests scheduled. So it's just a little old me, and well, I can talk, so I don't mind. So today, I thought I would cover the broad strokes of why just eating meat makes sense. So I could get on here and talk about all the studies and stuff like that, which we've referenced in the past, many of which I have linked at carnivoreinfo.com. But I thought I would just give the broad strokes so I could cover a lot of ground. And I'll mention some of the studies in there. So, first of all, I like to start with archaeology, not just because it starts with the A, but it's our window into the past, right? And when you look at the archaeological evidence, you find out that humans and prehumans have indeed been butchering animals for a very long time. So the oldest, uh, the oldest physical evidence I know of for hominids, in this case, prehumans, butchering animals is about 3.6 million years old. And in this case, we see tool marks from stone cutting tools on the fossilized bones of, uh, you know, food animals that we are apparently cutting the muscle tissue off of large animals a long time ago. And then we also have evidence prior to that um, that not only were we eating the flesh of animals, but we were cracking open their skulls and eating their brains, which may sound a little gross, but if you're gonna evolve into an animal like a modern human with a large brain, it makes sense that you would have a food source like that. In addition, there is all kinds of evidence that we were cracking open long bones, like let's say a femur bone, and eating the marrow out of it. And marrow is really sort of a specialized fat. And again, if you look at a paper like Man, the Fat Hunter by Mickey Bendor, there you go. There's a study. I'm sure most of the people in the carnivore community have heard of that study, and Mickey Bendor's done quite a few interviews about it. One that sticks in my mind, I think he did an interview with Amber O'Hearn, who sort of adopted the term lipivore, meaning we are creatures that seek out fat. So not just muscle protein per se, but fat. And then also, I'm pretty sure he did. Mickey Bendor did a good interview with Dr. Sean Baker and Zach Bitter on human performance outliers, which you can find on YouTube as well. So if you want to hear more about that paper, or you want to, I'm sure you can look up Amber O'Hearn, and she's talked about man as a fat hunter as well, and get a nice explanation of how there is archaeological evidence for human beings following around fatty mammals and eating them. And we talk about mammoths and stuff like that a lot. Mastodons, three-toed sloths, they come up. Woolly rhinos, you hear them all the time. Those uh, kind of prehistoric megafauna, but there was also a lot of sea mammals that got eaten. Your walrus and your seals and stuff like that were eaten. So people that evolved or lived in close proximity to the sea or the ocean would have had ready access to those animals because they tend to come ashore. And when you got a guy with a spear or whatever, even a club, anybody who's familiar with animal rights will be well aware that seals, particularly young seals, are often clubbed to this day as a source of food and pelts and stuff like that. So no surprise that they were part of our food chain. So anyways, if you read the stories of even the pygmies, which are very small people that still live in sub-Saharan Africa, they were elephant eaters. And even though these people are rather small in stature, they're very adept at taking down elephants and eating them. So they're not really able to anymore, from what I understand, from what I've heard, what I read. They've been relocated to an area where they don't have access to that type of food anymore. But there's another example that persisted into modern times of people successfully hunting megafauna. And of course, the thing about really large animals is they're not particularly afraid of small animals. And, a human being is nothing compared to a full-size elephant or mammoth or mastodon or even a sloth. I mean, they can squish us with one stomp of the foot, right? Or they can, you know, uh, knock us over, or even perhaps gore us with their tusks or whatever. So it's they're not naturally afraid of us. So if you walk up, in the case of the pygmies, I believe their technique was to slice the Achilles tendon on the back of the leg so that the animal couldn't run away when it was being attacked. And then they could easily gore it with a spear. And as it starts to bleed out, it then easily can be taken apart and eaten. So we also see in the archaeological record, I know in Mexico in particular, they unearthed several mammoth traps in the last year or two during, I think the excavations might have started for construction purposes, but then they found mammoth traps, which were basically pits that were dug, and the mammoth were, tricked, or maybe they just were walking along and fell in the hole that was concealed, or maybe they were spooked. A hunting technique, a pit trap, is something that's been used all over the world for hunting for all types of animals. And also in the archaeological record, we see things called kites. And kites can be used on the shore to catch fish, or they can be used inland to herd animals into a walled area. So they usually kind of start out with a wider opening that narrows down, and then that giant corral, as it were. And once the animals are running around this corral, they're much easier to hunt because they have a very small amount of space to try and escape to. So all of these things, mammoth traps or pit traps, and the mammoth traps, we know they're mammoth traps because there's still mammoth bones in them, right? So it wasn't necessarily even for another animal. And the kites were probably, especially the later ones, were probably built for smaller animals, but it's not inconceivable that prehumans probably used things like canyons or whatever to catch mammoths, so they could wrangle them in and have easy access to them. So we have all that archaeological evidence, we have the bones, and then of course some of the very, very hard evidence really kind of takes us into the realm of physics, because I believe it's at the Max Planck Institute. One of the things they do in one of their laboratories is they measure the nitrogen isotopes, and that's not the only stable isotope that's measured, um, but it is the primary one that's discussed in terms of how much meat an animal ate. So they can look at the fossilized remains of both humans and other animals and determine how many other animals they were eating. And human beings are usually at the top of that, the apex predator. So we not only ate all kinds of animals, we ate animals that ate other animals, probably like wolves and lions and stuff like that. So that's some pretty hard science, that's kind of hard to deny. So um, a lot of people think that once a bone is fossilized, it's just actual, living tissue that's been turned into mineral. It's been completely mineralized. But in many cases, there are still traces of collagen, enough collagen so that these stable isotopes can be read in a laboratory. So that is how that information is collected. In addition to that, um, we find human and animal remains that have been preserved for one reason or another. I probably hear the story of the Denisovans, A tiny piece of finger bone from a young female was found in the back of the cave. It wasn't a fossil, it was still bone tissue. And that bone tissue, hi, Shelly. It's nice to see you. Thanks for coming. All is well with me. I hope all is well with you as well. So, the Denisovans were kind of identified from that, and of course they left behind some amazing artifacts. So they had developed things like stoneworking. There's this famous, they call it a jade bracelet because it's a green translucent stone, but I think it might actually not be jade. But this bracelet had been fashioned and polished, and then a tiny little hole had been drilled in it well before we thought any sort of hominid or human or pre-human or human adjacent sort of species had the ability to work stone or anything else like that. So this is another thing we see, is that the age of our technology, it's probably simple technology by today's standard, but the ability to cut and polish a decorative stone and decorate it and drill a tiny hole in it is kind of mind bending. And I always like to point out that the Denisovans are named after the cave they were found in, because that was Dennis's cave apparently, and Dennis was a hermit that lived in a cave. That always kind of makes me laugh that there's an entire species of hominid, or our fellow cousins, as it were, on the tree of life, which is probably more accurately described as a tangled bush, but they're named after a hermit that lived in a cave in Russia. Hi, Christina. Good to see you too. So, anyways, our understanding of who we are and where we came from keeps getting broader. This sort of concept that we were monkeys that turned into apes, larger apes, and then turned into some sort of middle ground, caveman or something like that. And then we eventually became humans, sort of the classic representation of our evolution. But as we find out now, our evolution is quite a bit more complicated than that. There's more cousins on the evolutionary bush than we thought. Now that so many samples have been DNA typed, you see that the haplotype groups and the migrations of humans around the planet is very complicated, and we probably outbred most of the other hominids. So one of the things that always bothers me is that when they talk about the mammoths going extinct, it seemed like the default assumption is that, well, humans probably hunted them into extinction. The Neanderthals, yeah, we probably murdered them, but it looks like really what happened was there was an impactor. It's probably the one that hit the ice sheet in in Greenland, that wiped out the megafauna eventually, or at least brought their numbers down to tiny amounts. If you dig into it, you find out that there was mammoths that actually survived on an island for a while, and they shrank in size because their habitat was so small. But anyways, there's still all these mammoths in the permafrost that were wiped out in a very short period of time, and they don't show any signs of predation or hunting or anything like that. They just got wiped out by an event, a big rock or chunk of ice or something like that impacted the Greenland ice sheet, ejected a bunch of material up into the sky, threw giant boulders all the way down. Those boulders are suspected of creating the Carolina Bays. So if you can imagine boulders flying through the air from Greenland all the way down to the southern coast of the United States, that was the kind of event that took place. So, and it's no surprise that as the populations of megafauna started to decline, human beings needed to start hunting more challenging game that was probably faster and more leery of humans because we're a little closer in size. So then we start eating, things like, bison and deer and moose and whatever's running around, right? So, in even though we may have put some pressure on those megafauna because we were eating them, I don't think human beings were numerous enough at the time to have really put much of a dent in their overall population. So saying the same thing, there isn't a whole lot of evidence for us, fighting with like Neanderthals, but there's a lot of evidence that we interbred with them. Same thing with the Denisovans, and then you have this weird sort of complication because the people in sub-Saharan Africa were still intermixing with an unknown hominid that I think they call it, hominid X or something like that, because they're not sure which one of the prehumans it was. While the populations in Europe and Asia weren't interbreeding with that particular ghost species, but the people in Asia and Europe were breeding with Neanderthals and Denisovans, and those genes don't get mixed again until much later. So they kind of put a hole in that whole out of Africa theory. So at the very least, that timeline for the departure from Africa has to be moved back quite a ways. And then, there's doubts too, because the oldest human remains don't come from sub-Saharan Africa. They come from the Levant. Ironically enough, where we discovered wheat after the megafauna disappeared. So once we see the dwindling supply of megafauna, we have to up our game as far as tool technology, and that's when you start seeing the invention of things like the atlatl and eventually the bow and arrow, but even more sophisticated spearheads and stuff like that for hunting, smaller spears probably, and an evolution away from just a plain sharpened stick to something with more of a cutting edge. So I think a lot of what convinced me too was just going back to teeth. A lot of people in the carnivore community, low carb community, is going to be familiar with the idea that when you add carbohydrates into the human diet, tooth decay goes up. And when we look at pre-humans and early humans, we see very little tooth decay. You can imagine that pre-dentistry, if everybody's walking around with a bunch of cavities, they probably would have been lethal, right? So there's a good chance that if we were eating, berries and grains and, you know, all the sweet things that we tend to enjoy, that sort of tooth decay probably would have been catastrophic. So it's another reason. And of course, when you see a lot of the plant-based propaganda videos that say we just don't have the teeth for eating meat, because apparently the only way you can eat meat is to hunt it like every other animal, and they leave out the evolution of the tool. So we know for sure we were doing things like using hammer stones, which even chimpanzees do. But in addition to that, when you use a hammer stone, you often get these sharp little flakes that come off of it. And we apparently picked up those sharp little flakes and started cutting the flesh off the animals to make it more accessible, as well as using the hammer stones to get into the brain case and eat the brains and to eat the long bone, the marrow out of the long bones. Whereas, the other animals just don't do that. I've heard it said that hyenas are really the only other animal that are equipped to crack open a brain case or a long bone. So there is the advantage. We had tools, and it gave us access to the food that helped our brain evolve. And yeah, Shelly's saying her teeth work just fine on a ribeye. Yeah, mine too. And when you see, the old footage of, the Inuit or Eskimo, the people in the Arctic Circle, they're taking whole fish and just slicing it into, bite-sized pieces and eating it, which, if anybody knows, like, I kind of picked up the habit of eating raw meat from my friend Emily Penton. So yeah, and all you have to do is cut that meat into bite-sized pieces, and that's the end of it. You don't have to cook it or anything. If you got fresh meat, you don't have to cook it. And we were clearly following the megafauna into northern Europe while an ice age was setting in, and there's no evidence that we had adopted or mastered the use of fire at that time. So we were walking into a long winter voluntarily because that's where the food supply was headed. So we also know from the archaeological record that as crop production ramped up, so did tooth decay, and so did poor joints. When you excavate the skeletons of ye old farmer, you find that they often toiled very hard, and they died in poor shape. So, grain production is typically kind of pegged somewhere about 8,000 years ago, maybe as much as 10,000 years ago. But, you have to realize that by the time somebody discovered wheat growing in the Levant, it took it quite a while to get around, and other people to figure out how to cultivate it. So it doesn't happen overnight. So you have to come in contact with it just to know that it exists, right? It's not like everybody was ordering it from Amazon. So I think going back to the teeth, it's important to remember that when they say we don't have the right teeth to be a carnivore, it doesn't make sense when you put it in context with the fact that we co-evolved with our tools. And that's essentially what set us apart, was the fact that we had so many tools. It gave us access to the right nutrients to grow a bigger brain, to be more cooperative, to create more sophisticated behaviors. And of course, we see that with other hominids as well. When I look at some of the graves of Neanderthals and stuff like that, they had burial rituals. They took care of disabled family members or tribe members or whatever. They buried people with care and often in very specific ways. And those kind of complex behaviors, don't really exist in the rest of the animal world. So that, you see this trend in hominids of more and more sophisticated behaviors, the ability to predict and plan ahead. And yeah, Shelley's bringing up the point that, we have a lot of artifacts and skeletal remains and intact human remains from the Egyptians, and we see all kinds of disease onset. There's indications of kidney disease and diabetes, and of course joint disease, and so on and so forth. And all this is a byproduct of our adaptation to eating, or a lack of adaptation to eating crops, particularly things like wheat and barley. So on to the more subtle things. A lot of people come to carnivore because Shell's saying they depicted it in their writings. Well, that's probably true too. And we know the Egyptians talked about bragging about who had the whitest bread. So even back then, culinary arts were a big deal. So you got to wonder why we elevated cooking to such a level when most cooking is really about either trying to detoxify a plant so you can tolerate it, or make it taste better so you can actually eat it, or you are, mixing ingredients together just to make it more palatable. But at the end of the day, most cooking is all about making your food taste like something it's not. So I'm not really sure how it wound up on a pedestal, but maybe when it comes from, food being in short supply, maybe it was really tough to raise livestock. Dave thought, well, let's plant crops, let's go with that, which makes sense because, it's better than starving. But at the end of the day, I think we all realize that something like regenerative animal agriculture is superior to row cropping. You put the animals back on the land, and then You can maintain your topsoil. You can regenerate missing topsoil. You can prevent desertification, and you can create a food web for lots of animals, even the ones you don't eat. So animals belong on the land. I know I like to remember a conversation I was reading, probably on Facebook or something, and there was somebody saying that a forest was the natural state of the planet, but that's not really true. By the time you have things like elephants, elephants and mammoths, stuff like that, they don't like trees. They prefer like a savanna like setting with few trees. So they actually kill trees and knock them over. So full grown elephants have been known to kill 1,000, 1,500 trees a year. So they were not only a food source, they were probably preparing the land in a state where we could evolve, right? We sort of adapted to an environment that they created. So I don't know if I don't know how much more science somebody needs to be convinced, but at the sheer volume of the plant-based community's propaganda, you got to wonder how they miss all that. So one of the other things I was going to mention was lactate. It was discovered back in, I think, the 60s that a lot of people with psychiatric issues had higher levels of lactate in the brain. And that's kind of led people to suspect that part of the issue with psychiatric problems is that there's insulin resistance in the brain from eating too many carbohydrates. Of course, you eat carbohydrates. All carbohydrates are made from sugar. Most of them are digestible. They go into your bloodstream and become blood sugar. The elevated blood sugar requires elevated insulin levels. And of course, insulin serves many, many functions in the body. It's a hormone. It's one of its primary jobs is regulating blood sugar. And when the cells in your body are exposed to it, they don't react to it as they should, because perhaps the cells themselves already have as much sugar as they're designed to hold, and insulin's trying to get them to open up again. But in some cases, cells that depend on sugar, there are some that depend on glucose. When their supply becomes depleted, perhaps the body is supplying other power sources like lactate to try and resolve the fuel crisis. So hopefully science gives us a solid answer on that one day. But I like to talk about the videos that Dr. Palmer did. He talked about helping a patient who just wanted to lose weight. It was a psychiatric patient that he was, also helping with bigger issues. But when he got the guy to try out a Atkins diet, the guy not only lost weight, but his psychiatric symptoms improved. So not necessarily a cure, but like we see in a lot of cases, going on a carnivore diet seems to drastically reduce the impact of symptoms on a person and create a better quality of life. So, and then I was going to touch on vitamin C. Of course, that's a big issue. People all talk about it all the time. If you just eat meat, you're going to get scurvy, right? So, as we see in the carnivore community, we don't see a lot of scurvy. So I've heard somebody got scurvy, but I haven't actually seen that story or read anything directly about it. I just heard it mentioned in passing. So I know a lot of people just eat meat and have for years. There's plenty of people who started before I did, and there's no sign of scurvy. And when you look back at some of the sources, whether it's Stephenson or some of the other explorers, they knew that fresh meat prevented scurvy and cured scurvy. So it's not just that you have to have vitamin C, it's that you have to have fresh meat. vitamin C is sort of an alternative um, cure. But of course, the problem was the explorers had a tough time keeping any fresh food on voyages for any length of time. So, um, and it seems genetically that, we're one of the few species that stopped producing vitamin C endogenously. We stopped producing it in our bodies, and it seems to be because that our bodies shifted over and used started using uric acid as a primary antioxidant. So the high levels of vitamin C were no longer required like they were in other animals. And this is something that evolution took care of in a very concise way, because we no longer carry any genes for that. So as much as people are afraid of it, doesn't seem to be a problem as long as you eat fresh meat. So Michelle's mentioning that could have something to do with taurine content in meat, which is possible. So hopefully there's more science to come on that. Uh, the roles of taurine in the human body are another thing that's complex enough that it's tough to wrap your head around. And of course, it's something that's not readily available in the plant world, like a number of things that we find in room meat or red meat or ruminant meat. So, anyways, uh, after you look at all this science, then you start dipping into the carnivore community, and we have all our anecdotal evidence, right? Person after person who went carnivore. A lot of us came to it because we had all kinds of ailments that just weren't getting remedied by, your typical allopathic medicine. And many of us had changed diets before. It's not that uncommon to find people that were plant-based or vegetarian or vegan that eventually went carnivore. And I think the thing there is because there's a certain amount of the certain mentality, or sometimes it's just desperation. People are willing to try new things in order to improve their situation. And so it's not too surprising to me that somebody who is committed enough to go plant-based would, if, having not resolved the issues that they wanted to resolve, would try going carnivore. So, because those people have what it takes to make the changes. I know personally, I've spoken to people, and I'm like, well, it's just cut back on the sugar, or stop eating bread, and just try eating one meal. That's all me. And I frequently get the comment, "Oh, I could never do that. I could never do that." So obviously, those people who just can't or aren't willing to change their diet are far less likely to wind up trying something like a carnivore diet. So there you have it. What was next? I had to had to restart my computer right before. I'd already set up this broadcast, and then I had an issue, and so all the notes I had open for this were closed, and I didn't. I opted to just start the broadcast on time rather than sitting trying to get all my notes back together. So, anyways, I think I covered a lot of what I wanted to talk about, and I think I covered a lot of the hot topics already. Sorry if I've kind of started right out of the gate. Many of the topics that I discussed today have been broken down into short ribs or long format videos that we've already done. So anytime we can get somebody to watch a video or subscribe, it really helps the channel. I know we've got over 300 videos up already. Many of the early ones that were solo like this, but we try and crank out these live events every Sunday at 5 Pacific Standard Time. And then we also put out the short ribs, which are kind of more concise topics. And then we also do the long formats where sometimes we interview a guest or we have a topic. I know we were hoping to kind of, we were going to cover some photographs today of a certain person in the carnivore community who somebody had posted a noticeable progression of that person's appearance. So I don't know. Joe and Justin may show up. It's hard to say. If they do, we'll cover that one. But it was pretty interesting to see that somebody had drastically changed over the last few years. I hadn't really noticed it, but the photos are very convincing. So that's another thing. Don't we see a very noticeable sort of trend in people that are plant based? They tend to have that sort of bony, like lack of collagen. I don't know what that is. Sort of appearance, and so I don't know why it's such a stretch for people to believe that eating red meat or animals should be the core of our diet, because they're essentially made out of the same components as we are. So it's kind of a shortcut, right? And when you look at modern predators, even like wolves or coyotes, you often see that um they attack, they eat house cats and stuff like that where I live all the time. So when they leave a carcass behind, they often leave everything but the abdomen, you know. So if we had evolved originally as scavengers, we would have frequently found like the leg meat and the head and the long bones, obviously, and that could very well have started us down our road, because if we had the ability to cut the muscle tissue off the bones and then crack the bones open and eat the marrow, we would have done very well as far as getting our protein and our fat. So that being said, when you look at protein in general, protein itself is only made out of so many amino acids. There's only so many amino acids to be had, and all our bodies do is take that in, break it down. It goes into the bloodstream, gets shunted around, and rebuilds yourself or adds on to yourself. And then, of course, the fat is our primary fuel. So as long as you have the protein and the fat, and this the archaeological record clearly shows that's what we were up to. So I could delve into the Maritime Archaic a little bit, but that's kind of a leap. Just the Maritime Archaic are people that were apparently getting around on boats much earlier than we thought. They had also developed sophisticated harpoons, like toggle harpoons, sophisticated fish hooks long before anybody thought. And again, those deep water oily fish like cod and swordfish and stuff like that are also good sources of fat and protein. And they had access to shellfish and marine mammals, and they left huge garbage piles, with the remains of all these things. And we find their graves. Part of this is understanding that, here in North America, people just didn't walk across the Bering Strait when it was frozen at one time. People were apparently coming here well before that group. So even during the Ice Age, now they understand that there was pockets that were previously assumed to just be covered by the ice sheet, but weren't. And so particularly people that migrated to the East Coast from most likely Europe, quite possibly even Africa or Asia, they hopped along, and they had a food chain to follow, and they followed the coastal regions, and they ate marine mammals, land mammals, and were sophisticated fishermen. These guys had plummets and fishing line and fishing hooks, were able to fish for deep sea fish long before anybody thought they were. So, and we know that. And these people, they had some rather curious habits that makes them a little easier to identify. They were known for sort of lining their graves with red ochre. So That is a habit that is traced back to Europe. So we're pretty sure they were Europeans. And of course, now that we have genes, I haven't actually looked at the haplotype maps for that, but I'm pretty sure it's the same people. So again, we're sort of tracing people based on the fact that in prehistory, your primary job was to eat, right? You had to go out and find food, whether that was in the ocean or on the land or on the beach or whatever, and you had to eat it. It's the same existences, catching um, Colombian mammoths in Mexico, 1,000, 2,000, probably, well, they probably went started going extinct roughly 12,000 years ago. So that's a long time. And since then, we've adapted a lot of plants, but you don't see hardly any of those plants prior to that. I like to ask people all the time whether they think we're omnivores or they think we should be plant based. I like to ask them, what plant do we possibly evolve to eat? You know, and I never get an answer. And while there were some starchy tubers out there that were available, I think people have pointed this out before in the chat that the energy expended to dig up those tubers and process them into something edible, it generally takes more energy than they provide as food. So, and then try and imagine in a timeline, how was all this done before we had fire, much less pottery? I mean, all wild potatoes are toxic. 90 like 99% of all plants are directly toxic to human beings, and that's a result of co-evolving as competitors, right? The plants don't want to be eaten. They have to find a way to not be eaten into extinction, not just by humans but by animals, other animals as well. And that's why so many animals specialize in eating specific foods. You see a gorilla. Gorillas didn't really evolve eating bananas. They pretty much eat leaves and twigs. Occasionally they eat other gorillas and monkeys and stuff like that, or ants or whatever, but they specialize in eating twigs and leaves. I mean, a koala is a nice example. I mean, that animal pretty much just can only eat eucalyptus leaves. And then there's cows primarily just eat grass. There's a little bit of other roughage that they can eat, and yeah, you can stuff them with grain or something for a short period of time, but they're biologically evolved to eat grass. And it makes sense because they have a bunch of herbivores that eat grass because there was lots of grass to eat, and that's why they were so successful. So, uh, yeah, primates do hunt for meat as well. So, like chimps, chimps have been hunting. Is it the colobus monkey into extinction? That's a pretty horrific thing to witness to. Oh, look, Justin's coming. Justin's here. Finally showed up. Let's see. He's 43 minutes late, but he's got a hall pass.
Hey, hello. Hi, everybody. Hey, Tom.
What's up? Good to see you.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Finally got a chance to take a drink of water.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, sorry I'm late, everyone. I was building the chicken coop today. So farmer Justin today. So there you go.
So how long before you get your chickens?
I already have the chickens. They're just small now. Yeah.
Little
and my
peepers?
aunt, what?
Little peepers.
Peepers, yeah.
Beep, 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 beep.
And then my aunt opted for what's it called? A Banty Rooster? Something like that. It starts with a B. It's a smaller rooster, though.
I was kind of hoping you get one of those Brahmas.
What are those?
It's those giant ones that are like 3 feet tall.
Oh, yeah, those are cool. Yeah, that would be cool. But those get mean. They'll like hurt the chickens and they'll hurt you.
Well, I was talking to my cousin about that. He's a backyard chicken guy, and he said actually the really big chickens are actually super mellow, which surprised me. Because I saw this picture of this little girl holding one, and I mean this chicken was as big as a little girl, and I was like, holy crap, that thing's gonna tear her up. He's like, oh no, they're like super docile. Now I'm not saying they don't beat up the hens or something, because that wouldn't surprise me, but as far as humans go, I guess they're pretty laid back. Banty Rooster.
Yeah, there you go. Banty Rooster. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Raymond. I don't know what a Banty Rooster is.
Yeah, it's like a small little rooster. Yeah, they're just smaller, I guess.
Mm,
I guess they're like more docile and won't hurt the hens.
that's good.
Yeah. And on Thursday, I get my cows. So there you go.
Wow, getting your cows too.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of cows you getting?
I don't know. I have to see what they have at the sale barn or whatever. Yeah. Beef cows.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. So I'll be doing it up.
So how many cows do you think you're getting?
Me and my aunt are each gonna get one. So we'll just have 2 cows. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably a good thing for the first. This is your first time raising cows, but not her first time, right?
Yeah, right. I think she's had like 4 or 5 at a time or whatever. The problem is like our property isn't really set up for it because we have to like fill up tubs of water. Like there isn't like a natural pond. Like our slope is on the wrong side of the property.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too bad you don't know a guy who's been doing civil engineering for 10 years. You might be able to help you with that. So, yeah, maybe we can work on a plan.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. That's the main thing. And I need to build like a real structure to house like more cows.
Looks like Shell's already named your cows for you.
Oh, really?
Ribeye and T-bone.
There you go. Yep, that's the name of their cows for sure. Mm-hmm. Hopefully the meat tastes better this time.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe there's some noxious weed or something on the property that taints its flavor.
Maybe. Who knows? And my aunt thanked me because I spotted a baby copperhead on the property. So, yeah.
Did you catch it?
No, but it was disposed of. Sadly. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Oh, speaking of snakes, I found one of my snakes.
Where was it?
Mine was behind the couch.
Uh-huh. So it was that close the whole time.
Yeah.
You spent hours sitting on the couch kind of wonder where that snake is.
Yeah, probably. Throughout the week, yeah.
So why don't you just tell everybody the story?
It isn't much of a story.
Well, we have time for not much of a story. So you wake up one morning and
yeah, I tried to feed one of my snakes a rat. Well, actually, we have to roll it back because I'm gonna freeze. Because like a week and a half ago now, I lost one of the snakes. It was my own fault. I forgot to put the lid clamps on it. It's actually my cousin's snake, the bigger snake. That snake's been lost for like a week and a half. But on this past Monday, I lost my other snake. I tried to feed it a rat. I was really tired. And when I woke up in the morning, the rat was in the tank, but there was no snake. And I was like, what in the, yeah. So
apparently that snake didn't like your cooking.
Yeah, apparently not. Doesn't like its rats raw, apparently. At least not at the moment. But yeah, yesterday, I found it behind the couch. So there's one snake. I still believe then the other snake is around here somewhere.
Probably. I mean, it's still fairly cold outside, right?
It's pretty warm. Like it's perfect temperature for them, which is good and bad. I'd actually have a lot easier job finding them if it was like winter, because they would just be behind the fridge or by the oven because they'd want to be where it's warm. Since the weather is naturally warm, they can kind of just kick it anywhere, which is probably why I'm having such a hard time.
Right. So, you got any other furniture you haven't turned over yet?
Not that I could think of at the moment.
Yeah, I told Justin to call me and let me know how many snakes were missing, because the police call me and find his corpse and it's got strangulation marks on him or something. I'll say, well, you're looking for a ball python. I'm just saying. So, did you want to talk about those pictures of Dr. Salad Dinosaur?
Sure. I don't know what pictures we're talking about, but okay.
The ones that were in Four Amigos, dude.
The comparisons?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
So we got this picture that the guy named Doug Pearl posted, in 100% Carnivore and Beyond. That is Phil Escott's group. Shout out to Phil, my cousin from across the pond. But anyways,
I thought that was Bart, or is Bart your brother from across the pond?
Bart's my Kiwi cousin.
Uh,
So here we go. Sharing. So, although I got to say, the first photo, now that I see it blown up on the screen, totally looks like he's wearing makeup. Weird. So, anyways, you guys can see it, I take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, the pictures are tough. It's kind of like low-hanging fruit and stuff like that. Get it? Fruit, eating fruit. Paul, salad dinosaur. Anyway, so there's always light, shadow, makeup, sun exposure, having beard, facial hair, all that stuff, can make it looks like all the way to the left, the first picture, his hair is actually dyed. In that one, I don't think his hair is that naturally.
Well, like
dark.
I said, I see it blown up on the screen here, and it almost doesn't look like a real photograph. So I don't know if it's been compressed too many times, or it's been run through a filter, or if it's an animation. When I saw it on my phone earlier, it looked just like a normal photograph, but now I'm looking at it, it's kind of weirding me out.
So, yeah, well, it could be just his face too. I mean,
all right, it could be just his face,
right? And then the middle one, I mean, I wish there were years. I mean, I think it's supposed to be 2020 through 2022, if I remember right. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to tell with these.
Yeah, and I've criticized other people for really picking apart photos, usually because it's somebody I like that they're messing with. But
that particular person's photo choices are like really, really bad photo choices.
Yeah.
Like they're not even trying to be they're not even trying to be charitable.
Yeah, so the reason why, well, number one, the reason why I call him Dr. Salad Dinosaur is because he actually called himself that in an interview. So he thought it was funny and clever, and I'm just going with it because it's more fun to call him Dr. Salad Dinosaur than it is his real name. And the reason why I bring up this photo is, of course, because there's a controversy of the fact that by some accounts he's eating as much as 400 grams of carbohydrate a day. We don't really know how much he burns in a day or just how active he still is. I know he used to talk about surfing, and I don't know I can't even remember what other activities, but apparently quite active. So, if it was, I look at it too. There's other people that eat small amounts of carbohydrate, not not necessarily because they believe you need to eat honey or fruit or anything, but because it's part of the diet. I mean, you could eat, some sort of dairy, or I had somebody ask me, they had bought scallops, right? Sea
Hmm.
scallops, and that's all that's all the only ingredient listed, right? They're apparently just frozen sea scallops, and we were kind of surprised at how high the carbohydrate content was in that, which is a shellfish, right? And I was like, man, I never looked it up before. I don't know, but I said, yeah, that does seem like a lot if it's any significant part of your diet. And of course, a lot of people really love scallops, right? So if you're eating a lot of them because you like them, and that carbohydrate content is a high percentage of your diet, I'd be careful, right? Because you could get some unintended consequences, right?
Well,
But
I don't know that maybe, but aren't don't scallops have like no fat though? Isn't it just like protein?
yeah, but it's like there's no fat, right? Like you said, so it's protein and carbohydrate,
Yeah, so you're not really hitting the Randall cycle, so that's good. So I mean, you
right?
would just have to parse out some fat some way later on that day, technically. I don't know. That might be like a Bart question. Like, what about
Well,
scallops and
and
checking other
and this was
scallops?
this was a person that was struggling too. This wasn't like a super robust, well found, well disciplined carnivore. This was somebody that's constantly having problems adapting and getting through issues, and I couldn't think of another example where somebody was getting that amount of carbohydrate from their meat. So I was a little cautious, right?
Right.
With that being said, I don't really claim to know how much carbohydrate uh, Dr. Salad Dinosaur is eating, but he does seem to be a strong proponent of eating fruit and honey these days, right? And I believe I've heard him say in his own videos something like 100 grams of carbohydrate just in the form of honey,
Right.
and how beneficial it is. But it does seem to me that his muscle mass seems to be subsiding. Um, he does seem, if that last photo really is, the most recent one, he's definitely lost uh, both muscle mass and body fat. And this is a guy that usually looks fit. So I don't really think there's a there's a reason to be super lean like that, right? Unless you're marathon runner, ultra marathon runner, maybe something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, hard to tell. I mean, you know, uh, we'll have to see. I mean, maybe in a couple more years, what's up with him. He's still fairly young. I think he's like 40, 42 or something, if I remember right. He's not like 50 yet.
Right. Yeah, that
And
sounds about right.
I mean, by comparison, he's still eating better than, 83% of people or something like that, most likely, right? And so, when it comes
True.
to Saladino, I don't know if him adding in that much carbohydrate is actually like gonna decrease his quality of life or decrease his lifespan later in life, And plus, he already knows how to do carnivore. So it'd be super easy for him to take like 3, 6 months strict carnivore and probably be like right back and then just go back to shenanigans or whatever. I don't know.
Well, since I was just talking about a lot of archaeological evidence and stuff like that, you know, we don't see a lot of evidence for humans eating fruit, much less honey. So I don't think, I'm sure they ate what they could get their hands on, right?
Right.
But the bee vomit supply was rather limited. I think that's what Shell's implying. And yes, Ban Parlos, I eat a lot of shrimp too. I don't eat a lot of scallops, but I haven't eaten a scallop in quite a while. I've had one a sushi bar or something recently, or in the last few years maybe. But yeah, I got food poisoning from them twice when I was a kid, so they're not my go-to food. So
Well, I think when it comes to Saladino, and this is a more point to you, Tom, is, if he went to the dentist and had a full workup of his teeth, posted that, and then kept eating the same way, and then did the same thing like in 2 or 3 years, posted his teeth, I think if anywhere something was going to show, I think it would be there.
yeah, that'd be interesting. Some of these cultures, the guys in Nepal that harvest is it pink honey, red honey, the honey, the hallucinogenic honey,
Right.
and then was it the Hansa or whatever that go out and harvest honey? It'd be interesting to see what shape their teeth are in, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't think there's anything magically protective about honey. I think things like strep, can digest honey just as well as other carbohydrates. Oh, Shell's going to bed. Well, good night. Peace
Good
out.
night.
See you next time. She must be on the East Coast.
Yeah, I guess so. With Space Ghost.
Space Ghost is from the East Coast.
From the East Coast.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he's from Jersey.
I don't know who Space Ghost is.
Oh, Space Ghost is amazing.
If you say so. I wonder if we looked into, maybe we can hit up Ray and see if he knows. But I wonder if what's his name, the dentist? Where's that book?
The human deficiencies, or
yeah, the guy who went looking for the vegan
tribe.
Yeah, see if there's any sort of evidence of a vegetable-based society out there. God, it's right on the tip of my tongue too. The so-and-so society. Anyways, yeah,
Weston
maybe.
A. Price.
Yeah, Weston A. Price. So I wonder if he noticed anything with people that ate a lot of honey. I mean, he was a dentist, right?
Right. Yeah.
So be interesting to find out. So when was the last time you had any honey? Do you have like honey-based scallops recently, Justin?
I think the last time I had honey was probably about I think in December. I had honey in December.
Yeah, you got a friend that imports honey, right?
Yeah, from Hawaii.
Your friend with diabetes.
Yeah.
Is a honey peddler.
Yes, he is.
That's some ironic fodder for jokes for us.
Yeah, it is. Especially when I start slinging it around here. That's be kind of funny.
Well, you got to feed the monkey.
Right. Got to feed the snakes.
Right. Maybe if you put some honey on the rats, maybe the snakes would like it.
Maybe. We'll see.
What do you think would happen?
I'd probably just avoid it. Or I'd end up with like a snake stuck to a rat. Glued together with honey.
I'm East Coast too. Got a lot of rest this weekend, so I'll stick around. So Bam Parlos is from the East Coast as well.
There you go.
Well, thanks for sticking around, man. How much scallops and shrimp do you eat, Ben Parlos? Let us know in the comments.
Oh, I made shrimp this weekend. I didn't even eat any of it. I just made it and I forgot about it.
I probably eat at least 3 pounds of shrimp a week.
Wow.
Maybe more. So I buy a 2-pound bag, divide it into quarter, so half a pound per container. And I eat like at least one of those a day. I mean, sometimes I run out and I don't have it for a couple days, but yeah, I like eating the shrimp. And the shrimp is pretty much pure protein. It's notorious for being high in cholesterol, but I haven't had a heart attack yet, so I'm not gonna worry about it.
Shrimp's known for being high in cholesterol? Wow, I thought there's no saturated fat.
Yeah, somehow the shellfish are known for shellfish and I forgot what you call the little shrimp-like guys.
I just had it too. I can't remember the.
So, anyways, yeah, I from what I recall, they're sort of high in cholesterol, even though they have no fat on them. So they aren't any of that, right? But they're delicious. I mean, what's easier, it's like I buy them, they're cooked. They're already cooked and shelled and all that. They've been boiled, and I thaw them out, put them in the containers, and I take that with my meat. It's like I'm actually eating ribeye this week instead of strip steaks because they were on sale. So I cut up some ribeyes. Did you see that picture I put up yesterday?
Yeah,
I could pull that up. I was in a hurry, and so I needed to.
Your steak to go, your steak on the road.
Yeah, so I had some road steak.
It was raw too, right? You're still doing the raw, right?
Yeah. So the only time I've cooked a steak in the recent past is because it'd been frozen and quite potentially defrosted and frozen again. Like, let's cook it. But let me share this. So yeah, you can see. Share. Where'd you go? Share the screen. I just literally grabbed a steak out of the fridge, wrapped in a paper towel, and hit the road. So that's a ribeye. Of course, ribeyes are pretty tender usually, so no utensils, nothing.
That's pretty impressive.
Just the meat, just the facts, and of course, a paper towel because your fingers get greasy.
Right. Plus contamination. You touch the wheel and then your steak.
Yeah, and I had to set it down a couple times, so I needed, it's like I didn't want to leave a greasy stain on the.
You should have just put it in your mouth. Just left it in your mouth and did what you had to do.
Right.
Like how when people do with donuts, like I can't believe, like you see it in movies, but you're like, ooh, really? Like when you see people do that in real life, they're driving, they got like a donut in their mouth. It's like, dang.
Yeah, but I really like eating raw. I'm kind of glad I picked that up from M. That Emily just kind of dices all her fat and meat and then freezes it and then it grabs it out of the freezer and starts eating it every morning.
It'd be fun to make like an app. Like, you ever played the game Fruit Ninja, or have you know about the game Fruit Ninja?
Never heard of it.
It was a super popular like mobile game, like a swipe game. So basically, Fruit
Keep
Ninja.
Talking. I gotta grab a prop. I'll be right back.
Okay. So Fruit Ninja was I'm sure people in the chat probably, or when they watch this video later, it was that game where it has falling fruit, and like every fruit you slice with like your finger on the phone or tablet, you get points, but then sometimes there's bombs. If you hit a bomb, you blow up and die, right? It'd be fun to make like a version that's like Emily, and it's just like falling like ground beef, steak, ribeye, New York. And instead of Fruit Ninja, it's just like Emily cutting up raw meats, making points. And then instead of bombs killing you, it would be like, I don't know, like an ice cream or like a piece of bread, that if you hit the piece of bread instead of like the raw meat, you die and lose a life.
What if it was fruit that was killing you?
Right. That could be it too. You could like.
Could be, I'd say, coconuts falling out of trees, monkeys throwing bananas at you. Who do we talk about building this app for us? Because it's priceless.
We just need someone that can make a Fruit Ninja clone, pretty much. I mean, I don't think it'd be that hard.
The Fruit Ninja clone.
Yeah.
So anyway, since we were on the subject of ninjas and stuff, I thought I'd bring up Master Roshi.
Master Roshi?
Now, full disclaimer, Joe, since he's not here, the first thing he would say is, that's really... don't do it. But So my friend Aaron's in the store, and he sees this guy. It sends me a picture and says, "Dude, it looks just like you." And then, lo and behold, what shows up from Amazon yesterday? That's so weird because you know what? His glasses come out red if I hold it just right, but they're actually bright green. So, anyways, so I decided I'm going to pull that off for Halloween. And
Does that
maybe,
mean I have to be Goku if you're going to be Master Roshi?
you know, you're kind of the go-to expert for this
Nerdy stuff?
stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'll leave that up to you.
Okay.
But so yeah, I'm just gonna go with that. I mean, I can't not because it cracks me up. It's just too funny.
Do you have pants like his though? You need some like parachute pants.
Oh, I will. The first picture I saw, I didn't think he was wearing pants. I thought he just had a loincloth. I'll have to find that picture. So, but then when I got this in the mail yesterday, I was like, oh, thank God he's wearing pants. So I can pull that off. White tank top, sunglasses, brown pants. I'm gonna make that happen.
I like how the accessories are just different fists and hands. It's really funny.
So I'll just make myself a necklace with a bunch of hands on it. Not sure I'm gonna walk around with a purple scepter. And I noticed in a lot of the artwork I saw online, he's actually wearing red glasses. And I found a pair of good red glasses, so I might just go with red because neon green frames are a little hard to come by, especially in given my the circumference of my noggin. I got to make sure that I've literally put glasses on and had them split right here because my head's so big. So gonna try and avoid that. I'm just saying.
Oh, hey, we got to plug our California meetup. We should plug every week because I am coming. I booked my flight. I'm coming. Yeah. September 22nd through October 5th, I will be back in LA, back in the USSR.
No, back to Cali. What are you talking about?
Well, USSR, Cali, kind of same thing these days. There's really a difference.
Right. So yeah, and Joe will be here. Joe's coming. Joe's getting off a plane at 7 a.m, and we're gonna be at a Rammstein concert, the Coliseum, by 7 p.m. So good times. We picked our outfits. We're gonna wear leather shorts and bulletproof vests.
There you go.
So yeah, should be great. Good time.
And Doc Martens.
Bring your boots. I got my boots already. So yeah, we're gonna do our best to get together, have some meetups. I'll start floating it around. I think somebody mentioned it to somebody. Tell Bella already.
I did mention it to Bella in the comment. Also, that we were doing a Flying Dutchman challenge.
Yeah, we're gonna do a Flying Dutchman challenge. I'm kind of in training for that right now. My record is 4. These clowns that are half my size say they can eat 10, no problem. I'm actually pretty hungry, so I'll tell you what. When we get done recording, I'm gonna go order 5.
Go do it.
I did 4 before the gym. When was that? It was one day I had to stop at the gym, but I had to go to the charging station. And I was trying to work out. I didn't. Oh no, that was the day I ate that Turkish food. But still, 4 Flying Dutchman is tough for me. But you remember that day I was sending you those pictures of that shredded meat I was eating?
Yeah.
And you're like, what did you say it looked like? What restaurant did it say it looked like it was from?
Like, Chipotle, I think. I was like, oh yeah. Right. I was like, oh, did you get Chipotle?
But you know what it was about that meat? It was heavily seasoned and it's kind of dry. And like they serve it, they have all these sauces, right, that you could put on it. It was the what do you call it? That they cut off the spit, the shawarma. Is that what it is?
Yeah, shawarma.
Yeah. So I got chicken and beef, and I ate it, and then it's probably like an hour later, I was like, wow, this is not digesting well. It's overcooked, it's heavily seasoned, all the fat stripped out of it, and I didn't put any sauce on it. So that added up to not going to do that again. Because I went to the gym and I was like, whoo, yeah. It's like sitting there like a rock, So,
Well, I had a carnivore shake yesterday and got dizzy. So there you go.
yeah, what was in that thing? You never answered me.
Oh, it was carnivore ice cream. So it was raw egg, xylitol, monk fruit, bacon, milk, and heavy cream.
So how'd it taste?
Oh, it was great. Oh, and like I think some like chalk zero, like caramel in it too, or something. No, it tasted fine. It's just I drank it way too fast. Like I got a legitimate brain freeze, and my body was just like, "Bro, what you doing, bro? What are we doing?" And like I literally got dizzy and like tired, and like my stomach hurt. Yeah, it was not the best of ideas. Plus, I had eaten a bunch of ice cream before drinking that shake. Like I went like above, way above my everything. Yeah. I was trying to finish it though. I had it sitting in the sink. I was like, let's go finish this.
Yeah, I made ice cream out of cream and egg whites. And don't tell anybody, I put coffee in it. It was pretty bomb. Quite good. We'll make it when you get here.
There you go.
So you think let's talk some shit about Joe since he's not here. Since Joe's gonna be making pastries, you think he'll last as a carnivore?
I think so. At least, but he might have to taste here and there.
All right.
I couldn't do it. Like I can't even resist my aunt's keto treats.
Right. Well, I fell for that apple turnover a week ago. But I was starving like Marvin. So and I was like, one's not gonna hurt me. Didn't go so good. So beware of the apple turnover.
I think if I had one cheat, I don't know, there's a few different things. Probably like a red velvet cupcake.
What?
Yeah. With the cream cheese frosting of red velvet that's the bomb. A chocolate bar donut, which those are like my favorite. They're so basic, but they're just so sweet.
Chocolate bar?
Yeah, chocolate bar. Mm. And then when I was older, I got into the bear claws, which the bear claws are pretty good.
Yeah, bear claw, I remember it well, but like I noticed every time I ate any kind of like donut that was fried, it was like major heartburn. So I associate them with agony.
That's probably for the best. Donuts are terrible because they come in so many different kinds. They're like cakes, a cupcake. I mean, they're everywhere, right? Like getting up at 6 a.m. going to get a donut is like acceptable in our society.
It's encouraged.
It's encouraged. Yeah, there's some gyms that have donuts in the gym.
Right. What a world we live in.
Sugary, soy oil. Yeah, donuts are, well, my sister calls them do nots. She's not even carnivore or anything.
Do nots.
I've had to borrow that and call them do nots.
Do nots.
It's kind of like the ultimate resistance is donuts.
Thou shalt not eat the do nots.
Yeah. Although I think on the trip, isn't there a donut place that Joe wants to go to?
Yep. I told Joe it's gonna have to. He said not to tell anybody, so we shouldn't talk about it. But I told him that he should buy a second seat for the ride home because we got so many places we're gonna go eat. I don't know how we're gonna squeeze it all in, but we will try. including eating 10 Flying Dutchmen.
Right.
So
10 plus.
I'll float the idea to Sean to see if he's going to be in the Southland. Tell him he needs to defend his title as champion Flying Dutchman eater. Just going to lose all respect if he can't come down and slam at least 12.
He should also bring that big knife and like cut them. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I wonder how long we'll last sitting at an In-N-Out, stuffing our faces with Flying Dutchman.
You really have to call them. You really should call them like now and make sure.
Yeah, I think I got their number in my phone actually. Call corporate. So, yeah, and I don't know. We got to find a good location because some of them are so busy.
And then if In-N-Out won't do it, we'll just have to hit up Carl's Jr. If Carl's Jr. won't do it, we'll hit up Jack in the Box. If Jack in the Box won't do it, we'll hit up McDonald's. And McDonald's will do it because they'll take money for anything.
How dare you?
What? Got to have plan C, D, and E.
You can't go to any one of those other places and order a Flying Dutchman. It's ridiculous. But we can go to each one and order whatever it is they'll serve. I do know, like, I asked at Wendy's the other day, I'm like, hey, it wasn't breakfast, so but the last time I was there, but I was like, hey, can you do that breakfast Baconator with no bun? And she's like, oh, yeah. We'll just put it in a container or they'll even lettuce wrap it. So I keep meaning to go by there and get one, but I haven't for a while. So, but yeah, we can go around and try all the carnivore alternatives at all the fast food places because Lord knows we haven't planned enough eating.
You're not even going to make it to the gym. It's just going to be food in mouth the whole time.
Well, there's a Jack in the Box right in the parking lot across from the gym. So, and there's an In-N-Out around the corner. So, of course I will.
Burgers in hands at all. Burgers, steaks, and scallops in hands at all times.
And I talked to my buddy Eddie at the gym there, Corona. Shout out to Anytime Fitness in Corona. And I told him, I said, I got these guys coming from out of town. So he said, don't worry about it. Just come in and talk to me. We'll take care of it.
Cool. Am I going to get a reach around?
That's up to you. It's not my department.
I mean, you said take care of it. So, I mean, you know.
I talk about going to the gym and working out.
Oh, man.
Filthy,
my mind was
filthy mind.
Somewhere else.
Filthy.
Gotta ask. These are the important things. It is LA.
Well, LA adjacent.
It's the desert underbelly of LA.
Hey, no self-respecting person from the Inland Empire would say they're from LA. Come on. And unless they're trying to ditch a fake book girl or we don't have a good name for the phony Instagram girls. What are they called?
E-girls?
It's too general.
Insta thoughts?
The Insta thoughts, right? I was telling somebody about that the other day. And the funny thing is, you know, my running joke is I tell them all when they ask me what I do for a living, I tell them I'm a monkey trainer. I train monkeys for the circus, and not one of them has ever questioned that. Not one time has anybody questioned that. I actually train monkeys for the circus. So I am a world famous monkey trainer, apparently.
Yeah.
Never.
I think one day you will have a monkey. I see it in your future. It'll suck because you can't feed it meat. Well, I guess you could feed it monkey meat. Although maybe you could feed it meat and get it to evolve. That'd be interesting.
Do the monkey experiment? What happens when you feed a monkey bacon 12 days in a row? Pork chops. Flying Dutchman.
Maybe
that'd be our top video ever is if we got a monkey to eat a Flying Dutchman. cheese on his face. I think it's coming.
I mean, they do eat bugs. I don't know.
Some do.
Some do.
Some of them just eat fruit. Eat fruit and fling poo. It's basically what they're all about. A la boot for the Canadian monkeys, anyways.
Would those beat the white monkeys?
The Arctic monkeys?
Arctic monkeys, yeah.
Macaques. I think they're macaques, right? Japanese macaques are the ones that sit in the hot tub.
Oh yeah.
If I die and come back as a monkey, I hope it's that one. Get in the hot tub. Snow all around. Oh, that's the life. Yeah. All right. Well, anything else you want to talk about? How was going on about, basically foundational carnivore science?
Ah,
So before you got here.
very cool. Well, I hope I didn't interrupt the lecture.
No, I was pretty much winding down. I was telling him I had to restart my computer right before the green screen effect wasn't working, and I got an error. So I had all my notes open. I was making a new list of topics, and then I had to restart. And when I restarted, I was literally, by the time I opened the software, it was time to broadcast. I was like, oh, screw it, I'll just wing it.
There you go. Well, you pretty much know all this stuff off the top of your heart anyway.
Yeah, but you know how it is when you're sitting in front of the computer and you start blanking on the name for this or the name for that or whatever, and then you forget half the things you meant to say. So it's nice to have at least a bulleted list so you can keep the ball rolling. But anyways, maybe I'll be more or make sure I reboot well before next time.
Hopefully that works. No, not a whole lot for me. Just look forward on my Instagram, chicken coops, chickens, Banty Roosters, cows. Yep.
Rat snakes.
Copperheads.
Dead copperheads.
Dead copperheads.
Did you at least keep trophy from the copperhead?
No, did not. What was I going to keep?
I don't know, head.
It wasn't full it was a baby, like couldn't have been any more than like a month old. It was small. It was less than a foot long.
So no, mom's gonna kick your ass.
Yeah, maybe. We'll have to see. But there must be some copperhead eggs around there, or some more of them.
Yeah, we said we were gonna get Joe some snake gators for California because he's afraid of rattlesnakes. He wants to go hiking. He lives on like the continent with the most deadly snakes and spiders and sharks and giant kangaroos, and somehow he's afraid of good old California rattlesnakes. So yeah, Ben Parlos is asking if the baby copperheads are even poisonous. What do you think?
Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. It didn't seem vicious or anything. Like,
so
probably could have just could have just taken it home. Really,
should have just put it in a jar.
Yeah.
I do know with like the rattlesnakes, the younger ones are typically more dangerous just because they tend to eject more poison into the wound than adults do. The adult snakes tend to be a little more conservative with their venom because they realize that they don't need that to use that much, and so sometimes you get a higher dose from the younger snakes. So I don't know if that applies to copperheads, but that's the snake lure around where I live.
Yeah.
Baby snakes are impulsive.
Yeah. Oh, this one was super chill. It wasn't even in like it wasn't even scared or anything. It didn't even curl up like in, offensive pose or whatever.
So you didn't even send us a picture. What's the deal?
I do have a picture, actually.
Did you send it?
No, I can send it now.
Bastard.
I do have a picture of the baby copperhead.
Look, man, this is life on the interwebs. Send a picture or don't say anything. Come on.
All right. I just sent it in our group chat thing if you want to show the audience.
It's coming through. Coming through.
I don't even know if it was a copperhead. My aunt swears it is. I don't know my snakes that well. Not yet, anyway.
Them things ain't from around here. Come on, man. Scroll up. Huh. Only. Come on. All right. I'm going to share it. It's kind of probably kind of small, but.
It blended in with the gravel really well. It's quite hidden.
Good.
There you go.
Yeah, maybe. Go ahead.
What? Oh, what were you going to say, Tom?
So maybe our friendly local snakeologist will tell us if it's a copperhead.
Yeah, maybe. They can zoom in on it.
I'm trying. I don't. It zooms a little and then it stops. I don't know what the deal is.
Right.
Could you see it moving?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the picture doesn't get bigger for some reason.
Everything else around it. That's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know what the dealio is.
It must just be the way Messenger works.
It behaveth strangely.
Right. You'd probably have to like save it and then open it and then zoom. Enhance. There you go. Pretty.
I was hoping you would tell me what it tasted like, but
yeah, I don't. Do you think it's a copperhead? I don't know. Would you know that at all, Tom?
I wouldn't know. No.
Yeah.
Sure, we'll look it up. What does a copperhead look like?
I'll feel bad if it wasn't. I'll be like, oh, we just killed a garden snake or a rat snake.
Right? So, like most of your felonies, just say your aunt made you do it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
So that's life living out in the country.
I can't believe you didn't eat it. I'm disappointed in you. Remember, next time you see a snake, you need to eat it.
Okay. Well, it's too small to eat. Been like a snack.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Spam Parlous is saying rat snake. I don't know if that's in response to this, though.
Probably. Not that you could be bothered to look it up. Oh, yeah, I don't think it's a copperhead. Maybe.
It's hard to tell when they're young like that.
Yeah, most of their copperheads are more browns and reds, but I see one that's kind of grayish here. Let me. Of course, it didn't take me to it. Maybe. All right. It's not the one I was looking at.
But my aunt said the chickens are really good at killing snakes, apparently.
Have you ever seen the videos of the rooster fighting off a chicken hawk?
No, I don't think so. Maybe I have.
Dude, talk about a brutal fight. Holy cow.
Yeah, I don't know if that pattern. I mean, maybe it looks like the pattern is a little different, but the head shape looks the same though.
Yeah, it's kind of a similar coloration.
Yeah. Except no yellow tail.
Yeah.
And the eyes. It's hard to tell with the eyes.
Those reptilian eyes.
Right. I don't know. Well, it's a dead snake now. So there's that.
Yeah, so it's a different pattern.
Right? That's what I thought. To me, I thought it was just like a garden snake or a rat snake.
Well, I'll be really impressed when you learn to tell them apart by flavor. So
There you go.
Just saying.
My camera took a very good picture, though. Look at that. It's very detailed.
It's a very nice picture.
It's a very nice picture.
So who actually dispatched the critter?
Yes.
I said who?
Oh, my aunt's husband. He took like shears, I guess. I don't know. And just like cut its head. Clipped it.
See, you could have had a souvenir.
There you go. A rotting copperhead, maybe baby head somewhere.
Just throw the rest of the chickens. You know, in your picture, you can't actually see the end of the tail, so.
Right, it's tucked under.
But yeah, I'd say it's a different pattern.
Oh, and there's also a frog. Also saw a frog today. Oh, and a turtle. Turtle on the road.
What?
Yeah. All kinds of critters.
You had all kinds of snacks just laying around. Fresh. Instead, you came home with keto candy.
Yeah.
Bad, Rustin.
Hey. Like I said, my aunt's a bad influence.
Mm-hmm. So did you start naming your chickens yet?
No. Well, they're going to be food at some point.
Yeah.
Because my aunt's like, you know what? Instead of trying to keep them warm in the winter, she's like, how about when winter comes, we just butcher them, and we'll just have 10 chickens in the freezer, and we won't have to buy chicken for the year or whatever. I was like, that works.
So you're not buying it for the eggs per se?
Well, yes, until winter, and then my aunt's like, we'll just start over. I was like, well, if that's what you want to do, sure.
Next time, what I'd like you to do, feed the snake to the chickens, film it. Maybe the frog. Turtle. I don't think they're really going to eat a turtle, but maybe.
Well, the chickens are too small at this point to eat.
So make sure you keep the head, because Christina's going to help you keep it. She can preserve a gator skull. She can preserve a tiny little snake head.
All right. Very cool. That sounds cruel to put the snake in an anthill. Man, you guys that's rough. It's not a good way to go.
Put it in an anthill. They'll eat all the meat off. Pretty sure chickens will eat all the meat off too. Yep. Chickens are really just little terrorists. They're just too small to really hurt us. But I mean, they're dinosaurs at heart. They'd rather just be tearing everything apart and eating it. I mean, if you saw a bunch of chickens tearing apart a rat or a possum, it's just like watching the chimps tear apart a monkey and eating. It's like just shred it up and get it in your face as fast as possible.
Well, yeah, most birds are. I ran into some hawks today. They're huge, big ass, like red hawks.
Yeah.
And I think I saw a turkey too, like a natural turkey. It was either a turkey or a rooster. I think it was a turkey though, but it was thin. It was like either like maybe it was a baby turkey or a small, but like it was a thin turkey.
Yeah.
But I had like the red head, and pretty big sized bird. Which I know there are natural turkeys around here.
They're actually pretty much everywhere. So, when you lived in Southern California, did you ever see a wild turkey?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, not whiskey. I mean the bird.
No.
Because I run into them when I was out pheasant hunting one time.
Right.
When I say I run into them, I barely got a glimpse of one. They made all kinds of freaking noise. And you heard them like rustling through the brush and stuff, jumping out of trees and stuff. They were so freaking sneaky. I couldn't believe it. I was like, these pheasants suck. I'm gonna plug one of these turkeys in. They're way too smart for me. So. It was really rough terrain too. So, but yeah, there's wild turkeys out there for sure.
I guess there's a lady out here that has a pet turkey or turkeys, and she takes holiday pictures with it.
I mean, if you're gonna have a couple of cows and some chickens, maybe you should get a turkey.
Yeah, I mean, my aunt's main complaint about other fowl is two things. One, my aunt has dogs that will eat. Two, we need more fencing to keep out the other creatures.
Gotcha.
And C, tearing up the yard.
So the chicken's gonna be able to like walk around where the cows are, or what?
No, the chickens are going to be in one fenced-in area, and the cows. We actually have two pastures, like already fenced off, and so we move the cows from one pasture than the other.
Gotcha.
Once they eat all the grass in one pasture,
Just rotate them over to the other one.
Yeah.
Right on.
Like I said, the main problem is the water issue.
Yeah. That could be fixed. I mean, do they have municipal water there, or do they have a well?
No, they have municipal water.
Oh, okay. You got water pressure. You just got to pipe it up.
Yeah.
Or make a stock pond, or get a cattle tank. It's only 2 cows.
Right.
Can handle that. Did you get topographic maps of the area?
No, not yet.
All right. Did. We'll build you a cattle system, cattle watering system.
There we go.
You know what? Make those cows carry their own water.
Maybe I can ride one of the cows. We'll see.
I was my girlfriend's dad's been staying with us, and he was watching a Western, and I think it was Rawhide, which is like a series where Clint Eastwood got started.
Uh-huh.
And the guy just runs up and jumps on the horse from the back.
Uh-huh. Right.
And a lot of horses, they're used to getting on from the left side, right? Like a forklift. You got to get on from the left side. And I asked him, and because he's not a very tall fella, her dad. So I was like, hey, do you ever get on a horse like that? He's like, oh, yeah. That's the easiest way to get on, is just to hop up from behind, because you just kind of like, you're just kind of vaulting it. Like you run up and just push yourself up with your hands, and you're on the horse, He's like, oh, yeah, I used to do that when I was a kid. It's like, it's the easiest way. And I was like, it never spooks the horses? Like, no, tame horses don't care. But I was like, people do that other than in the movies? Is that real? So if you could do that on a cow, I'd be impressed. Yeah, long hose. Bam Parlo's saying long hose. Yeah, there you go. Long hose. Go to Costco and get a 500-foot hose times 6.
Well, yeah, that's what you use now. We have a long hose. But it'd be nice to be able to catch the rain. We get a lot of rain.
Yeah, there you go. That's what I did. Build yourself a little stock pond that fills up with rainwater.
Right.
What you need is some bentonite clay. Line yourself a pond.
But the problem with that is the mosquitoes as well, though.
Yeah, I don't know if it. You know what? One of the easiest things you can do to get rid of mosquitoes is just put a few drops of olive oil.
Really?
Yeah, and the olive oil floats on top, but when the mosquitoes lay their larvae, the olive oil makes the larva dissolve.
Dissolve? What do you mean dissolve?
For some reason, there's something in olive oil that causes whatever holds the little mosquito eggs together. It causes them to fall apart.
Wow, that's trippy.
I learned that from folks in the Midwest. They do that on their rain barrels and stuff. So give her a try.
I see.
If you die of malaria, this conversation never took place. All right, man.
All right.
Should we stick a fork in this one?
I say so.
Thanks, everybody. It was nice to have you folks in the chat. Appreciate you coming. As always, hit that like button for us. Stay subscribed. Make sure you leave all our videos playing while you're at work and your computer's doing nothing anyways. Make sure you subscribe all your friends and relatives and your enemies to the channel so we can get circulation up. We'd like to hit 20,000 here pretty soon because that's where Bart's at. He's over 20,000. So you guys can help us get there. But until next time, eat some snake. Feel better.
Feel better.
And whatever
you
do,
do, don't fall down the
food
carb hole.
hole.